14 months into the conflict in the Gaza Strip, the death toll has risen to 45,484, including more than 50 Palestinians killed in the last 24 hours. In South Korea, at least 177 people lost their lives on Sunday when an airliner skidded off the runway and crashed at Muan International Airport. And on December 30th marks 20 years of the fire at former República de Cromañon nightclub in the city of Buenos Aires, where 194 young people died and more than 1,400 were injured. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Fourteen months into the conflict in the Gaza Strip, the death toll has risen to 45,484, including more than 50 Palestinians killed in the last 24 hours. According to the Gaza Health Ministry, 52 people died after falling victim to the most recent Israeli attacks, which caused the disappearance of 11,000 Palestinians who remain under the rubble. One of the assaults by the Israeli army was carried out against the Kamal Adwan hospital in Beit Lahaya, where armed men surrounded and forced the evacuation of approximately 400 people and then set fire to the building. The Organization of Islamic Cooperation condemned the aggression, calling the sieges clear violations of international humanitarian law. And this Sunday, a fifth Palestinian baby froze to death due to the extreme cold affecting Gaza amid the ongoing Israeli genocide. The death was registered in the locality of Deir al-Bala, where dozens of displaced families live in tents and in inhuman conditions due to Zionist troops' aggression. Authorities reported that the baby was barely 1 month old and detailed that the health condition of his twin brother has worsened by the low temperatures. This is the fifth newborn to die in less than a week due to freezing because of the lack of supplies due to the blockade of humanitarian aid by the Tel Aviv regime. The Egyptian Foreign Ministry strongly condemned the attack on the Al-Aqsa Mosque by the Israeli Minister of National Security, Itamar Ben-Gvir. The Egyptian Foreign Ministry pointed out that the Israeli Minister of National Security's disregard for the sanctity of the compound is proof of contempt for Muslims worldwide and lack of interest in peaceful coexistence. It also urged Israel to fulfill its obligations as an occupying state and stressed the need to respect the holy site as a pure place of worship for Muslims. Likewise, it highlighted the need for the international community, led by the United Nations Security Council, to take decisive action against Israel and stop its violations. And in Israel, crowds took part in a large demonstration in the streets of Tel Aviv to denounce the failure of Benjamin Netanyahu's government to secure the release of Hamas prisoners. During the protests, they demanded that a prisoner exchange agreement be offered with the Palestinian Islamic Resistance Movement. Opposition groups also accused Netanyahu of obstructing the ceasefire agreement in order to maintain his position in the face of threats of overthrow by the security and finance ministries. Some of the families of the Israeli detainees sent messages to the newly elected U.S. President Donald Trump, urging him to pressure the Israeli Prime Minister to accept an agreement with Hamas.
And we want President-elect Trump, to know that the vast majority of Israelis want an end to the war and bringing back the hostages in a comprehensive release deal. This is the vast majority, every pause. But he keeps, portraying the picture otherwise. And this is why we want to warn President Trump that Netanyahu is trying to deceive him.
Today, as we light the fourth candle of Hanukkah, our loved ones mark 449 days in captivity in the hell that is in Gaza. Negotiations for their release are at a critical point. It is possible to secure a comprehensive deal. Yet, Netanyahu, for his own criminal motives, refuses to end the war, which is a requirement for the release deal to happen.
And in Yemen, the Houthi movement shot down a U.S. unmanned aerial vehicle over the Al-Baida province. According to the authorities, the drones were carrying out hostile missions inside the country. In this context, 13 U.S. drones have been successfully shot down by Yemeni air defenses since the beginning of the escalation in the Middle East. According to the U.S. Congressional Research Service, the cost of each drone is estimated at $30 million. And the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, says that 2024 has been one of the worst years for children in recent history. According to the United Nations data, armed conflicts like the ones in Palestine, Lebanon, and Sudan have meant malnutrition, forced displacements, and psychological trauma for children in those countries. According to the agency's report, over 473 million children live in conflict areas, and 49% of the people displaced by conflict happen to be children. UN data indicates that in the first 9 months of this year, more children were killed than in 2023. Now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. In South Korea, a commercial airliner burst into flames Sunday morning after skidding off an airport runway and slamming into a concrete barrier when its front undercarriage failed to deploy during landing, killing at least 177 people. In what is considered one of the country's worst air disasters, the National Fire Agency said rescuers rushed to get people off the Jeju airjet carrying 181 passengers at the airport in Won City, about 290 kilometers south of Seoul. The Transportation Ministry said that the plane was a 15-year-old Boeing 737-800 returning from Thailand. Furthermore, rescuers pulled out 2 crew members, and local health officials say they were conscious. In India, the government held state funerals for former Prime Minister Manmohan Singhs, who passed away after a long illness. President Draupadi Murmu, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and other members of the government paid their respects at the ceremony. The coffin was escorted by security forces and taken from the Congress Party headquarters to the cremation site. Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that Singh will always be remembered as a kind-hearted person, an erudite economist, and a leader dedicated to reforms. The administration also indicated that the country will be in mourning until January 1st, 2025, with the suspension of official entertainment activities until that day. In Canada, Halifax Airport was temporarily closed after a plane from St. John's, Newfoundland was forced to make an emergency landing. The plane skidded on the runway before part of it burst into flames. According to an airport report, the incident involved Air Canada Flight 2259, operated by PAL Airlines, and occurred at about 9:30 p.m. local time. The number of passengers was not specified, but they were evacuated and taken to a hangar for medical evaluation. And in the United States, 3 firefighters and a dozen passengers were injured in Florida on Saturday when a fire truck drove into a railroad crossing into the path of a high-speed passenger train after waiting for another train to pass. The accident occurred at 10:45 a.m. local time in busy downtown Delray Beach. As a result of the accident, the Bright Line train was stopped on the tracks with its front end destroyed about a block away from the fire truck. Palm Beach County firefighters transported 12 people from the train to the hospital with minor injuries. The Delray Beach Fire Department said in a social media post that 3 of its firefighters were in stable condition at the hospital. And a recent report by the United Nations Children's Fund released this Saturday revealed that approximately 473 million children worldwide currently live in conflict zones. This figure represents nearly 19% of the global child population, an alarming increase from 10% in the 1990s. The study highlights that more children than ever are facing the consequences of conflict, being forcibly displaced from their homes or caught in the midst of violence. This has resulted in many children being killed or seriously injured, dropping out of school, lacking essential vaccinations, or suffering from severe malnutrition. In Peru, authorities increased on Saturday to 91 the number of ports closed due to the strong waves that have caused material damage since Friday along the country's coastline. The National Emergency Operations Center informed that the decision to increase the closure of ports has been taken due to the abnormal swell which, according to forecasts, will continue until next Wednesday. In view of this situation, the Minister of Defense, Walter Astudillo, traveled to the northern region of Tumbes to supervise the response actions of the armed forces and the National Institute of Civil Defense. The minister also met with regional and local authorities in order to coordinate measures to reinforce support to those affected.
We are experiencing anomalous waves. The Port Authority and the National Directorate of Hydrography indicated that starting from December 25th of this month, waves that could cause problems in the coastal area, throughout the northern coast, were expected to originate. We have integrated police forces with the civil defense, city maintenance, and all areas of the municipality to have control and prevent personal injuries or casualties due to the wave phenomenon.
In Brazil, last weekend, the bridge connecting the cities of Estreito and Aguirnopolis collapsed, causing two trucks carrying chemical products such as herbicides and sulfuric acid to fall. The accident prompted federal authorities to conduct an analysis to assess the quality of the Tocantins River, but the study showed that chemicals did not contaminate the water because the containers had not been broken. Data from the Ministry of Health's Water Quality Monitoring Information System indicated that a highly toxic chemical substance used as an ingredient in the so-called Agent Orange was found in the Tocantins River. The concentration of pesticides in all Brazilian rivers has alarmed the authorities, who have warned the population of the risk of coming into contact with the water currents. We now have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Found your break, don't go away. Welcome back. On December 30th, marks 20 years of the fire at the former República de Cromañon nightclub in the city of Buenos Aires, where 194 people died and more than 1,400 were injured. Different organizations of survivors and relatives of the victims will carry out different cultural and social activities during the weekend to continue the demand for memory and justice. The tragic fire occurred in an establishment located in Buenos Aires, where 194 people died and 1,432 were injured. The fire started when a fan lit a flare during a performance by the national rock band Callejeros and reached the flammable material on the roof, thus spreading throughout the venue, trapping and suffocating fans inside, whereas the emergency exits were closed. A federal judge in Argentina ordered the Minister of Justice, Mariano Cuneo Libarona, to stop the dismantling of the Undersecretary for Protection Against Gender Violence. The order thus granted a precautionary measures requested by civil organizations to avoid the emptying of the institutions that work in defense of children, women, and diversities in situations of violence. On the other hand, the UN Committee on the Rights of the Child also expressed its concern about the institutional and political changes that are taking place in Argentina and the impact they may have on the protection of children. In Uruguay, the health of former President José Pepe Mujica is in the spotlight after undergoing an endoscopic procedure to treat the effects of esophageal cancer. The former head of state's personal physician, Raquel Panon, said he was recovering at a clinic in the capital, where he will remain over the weekend to assess his condition. The 89-year-old former president was fitted with a stent to widen his esophagus to make it easier to swallow food and liquids. Mujica is facing the after effects of radiation treatment for esophageal cancer, which he was diagnosed in April. Since then, Mujica has suffered from an esophageal obstruction, and in addition to pain, prevents him from eating and drinking normally. And the Serbian-Cuban Association in Belgrade reaffirmed its support for Cuba's socialist project, as communicated on Saturday by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Caribbean nation. The association expressed its rejection of the U.S. economic blockade and its addition to the list of countries promoting terrorism. The association's leaders, Veto Dobrijevic, stressed that the most important activity of the year was to collect signatures of engineers, professors, and artists in connection with the global campaign condemning the categorization of Cuba as a terrorist nation. Cuban Ambassador Ernesto Rodriguez welcomed the association's statement in support of the March of People on December 20th. And in Mexico, President Claudia Sheinbaum celebrated the country's progress in areas such as the reduction of inequality and poverty and the records in employment and foreign direct investment. At the inauguration of the third and last stretch of the Jala-Puerto Vallarta Highway in the western state of Nayarit, the Mexican president highlighted the approval this year of 16 constitutional reforms to return the social sense to the Constitution by 2025. Sheinbaum also highlighted the recognition of indigenous and Afro-Mexican peoples by law, and the integration of all social programs to the Constitution. At the event, the President assured that her government is working on several projects for the coming year in favor of the welfare of the Mexican people, preserving the principles and causes of the country. In Nigeria, people participate in the Calabar Carnival, celebration known as Africa's biggest street party. In its 20th year, the carnival includes participants and performers from different locations and takes place during the whole month of December with different cultural activities.
Calabar Carnival is one of the biggest street parties in Africa. We have the 18 local governments with different culture and tradition, which everyone is trying to showcase the tradition and the culture. And hopefully we will be able to beat the Brazil Carnival in years to come or in decades to come, because we are actually doing that. We are exhibiting our talents. Perfect.
From Calabar. Calabar is the first city that do carnival. But now when you look at it, you see that every state have their carnival. But on the 28th, they all find themselves here. So I can say that Calabar Carnival cannot be compared to any other carnival because they all copied from here.
Like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.